October 13th, 2025. Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. Picture the scene. The cameras are flashing. There's a buzz of diplomatic energy, and the world is watching. More than 20 world leaders are gathering for what's being called a historic peace summit. Co-hosted by former United States President Donald Trump and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, this conference is supposed to finally end the brutal Gaza war and reshape the Middle East. Leaders from Turkey, Jordan, Britain, Germany, and France are all there. This is supposed to be the moment, the grand finale of a high-stakes peace plan brokered by Trump that has already delivered a ceasefire and secured the release of hostages. The stage is set. But as everyone gathers, one chair, maybe the most critical one, is empty. The man at the center of it all, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, is a no-show. The official story, quickly fed to the press, is a scheduling conflict. A Jewish holiday, Simchat Torah, is about to begin. But that story just doesn't add up. The date of the holiday has been on the calendar for thousands of years. The date of the summit was known for weeks. The real story, the one that played out in secret phone calls and high-stakes power plays, is so much more complicated. It's a story about a hidden ultimatum, a political trap, and a firestorm that was about to burn down a carefully manufactured peace. This is the real reason Netanyahu disappeared. It all started just hours before the summit, with a series of events that feel like they were ripped straight out of a political thriller. First, a secret invitation. Then, a private meeting inside the armored cocoon of the United States presidential limo, the Beast. And finally, a reported threat that put the entire conference on life support. The official line was a simple scheduling conflict, a polite excuse. But behind the scenes, a diplomatic crisis was exploding, threatening to shatter the summit before it even began. And at the heart of it was an impossible choice for Benjamin Netanyahu, a choice that would expose just how fragile his power really was, and the true nature of this so-called historic peace. To understand why one man's absence could send shockwaves around the world, you have to understand what was on the line in October 2025. The world was just starting to breathe again after the devastating Gaza war. The conflict left behind a deep scar on the region, a landscape of ruin and a human toll that was hard to wrap your head around. In the aftermath, Donald Trump, no longer in the White House but still a major player, saw his opening. Using his connections, he pushed a bold 20-point peace plan. It was classic Trump, transactional, splashy, and built around his personal brand of deal-making. The plan included a ceasefire, the release of all remaining hostages, a massive prisoner swap, and a roadmap for Palestinian self-rule and the rebuilding of Gaza. For many, this felt like the breakthrough they had been waiting for. It was hailed as a historic chance to finally break the cycles of violence. The Sharm el-Sheikh summit was meant to be the crown jewel of this effort. It was designed as a grand ceremony for the world's most powerful leaders to endorse the plan and pledge their support. This wasn't just another meeting, it was a symbol of a new beginning, of global cooperation and of hope. And for that symbol to have any weight, Israel had to be there. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas was scheduled to attend. Leaders from all over the Arab world were there. For the deal to be seen as legitimate, for the peace to have any chance of lasting, the Israeli Prime Minister's presence was non-negotiable. His attendance would signal Israel's commitment to the entire framework. Without him, the summit was a performance. With him, it was history. The stakes couldn't have been higher, and everyone, especially Donald Trump, knew it. Here's a twist. Benjamin Netanyahu wasn't even on the original guest list. Egyptian President el-Sisi, walking a tightrope with Arab public opinion, was reluctant to invite him. The relationship between the two leaders was frosty. Sources say they hadn't spoken directly since long before the war started. For el-Sisi, hosting the Israeli leader, who had just overseen a brutal war in Gaza, was politically toxic. But Donald Trump was insistent. For his peace plan to work, he needed Netanyahu in that room. The maneuvering kicked off on the morning of October 13th, as soon as Trump landed in Israel before his trip to Egypt. The mission was on. According to detailed reports, the crucial conversation happened during the car ride from the airport to the Knesset. Inside the heavily armored presidential limo, the Beast, Trump made his pitch directly to Netanyahu. He didn't just suggest Netanyahu come along, he made it sound essential, a joint victory lap for them both. Then, to seal the deal, Trump reportedly made a call right from his limo to President el-Sisi in Egypt, with Netanyahu listening in. It was a pure power move, designed to cut through the diplomatic red tape. And it worked. El-Sisi, put on the spot by Trump, extended a formal invitation. For a few hours, it looked like a genius move. Netanyahu accepted. The Egyptian presidency officially announced his attendance. The stage was set for a truly historic moment. But just as quickly as it all came together, it started to unravel. Because another world leader was also heading to Egypt. And Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan had a very different idea for how this summit should go. When he learned Netanyahu was now on the guest list, his reaction was swift and absolute. This was a red line. The ultimatum was reportedly delivered while Erdogan was still in the air. As his plane circled, he contacted President el-Sisi directly. The message was blunt. If Benjamin Netanyahu's plane landed in Sharm el-Sheikh, his would turn around and he would boycott the summit. This wasn't just a private threat, it was a public challenge. Erdogan, who had loudly condemned Israel's actions in Gaza, saw Netanyahu's presence as an unacceptable normalization of those actions. Sharing a stage with the Israeli Prime Minister would have been a disaster for him at home. News of Erdogan's ultimatum sent organizers scrambling. Having a major regional power like Turkey walk out would be a catastrophic blow to the event's credibility. It would expose the deep cracks in this supposed new era of cooperation. The carefully constructed diplomatic victory was suddenly about to collapse into an embarrassing failure, and Benjamin Netanyahu was caught right in the middle. But the pressure wasn't just coming from the outside. As news of his planned trip spread, a political firestorm erupted back in Israel. Netanyahu was leading a fragile coalition government built on the support of far-right and ultra-orthodox religious parties. For these hardline partners, the thought of their prime minister sharing a stage with Mahmoud Abbas and endorsing Palestinian self-rule was heresy. Key figures in his government threatened to resign, which would have instantly collapsed his coalition and triggered new elections. His religious partners were also furious, insisting that attending the summit would be a desecration of the Simchat Torah holiday. Netanyahu was trapped. On one side, he had Donald Trump, his most powerful ally, who had personally set up the invitation. Angering Trump would be a huge strategic mistake. On the other side was Erdogan's public ultimatum and his own coalition partners threatening to detonate his government. If he went, his government could fall. If he didn't go, he would humiliate Trump and look like he was caving to Turkish pressure. There was no good move. To save the summit from collapsing and to save his own political skin, Netanyahu had to disappear. The official excuse, the holiday, was the perfect, diplomatically safe cover story. His office thanked Trump, but politely declined, citing the proximity of the event to the start of the holiday. It was a polite fiction, designed to hide a stunning truth. The Israeli Prime Minister had just been forced out of his own peace summit. This tangled web of political pressure, backroom deals, and last-minute threats is the story you probably won't get from the headlines. It's the kind of detail that emerges when you connect the dots between official statements and insider reports. If you appreciate this kind of in-depth analysis that goes beyond the talking points, take a second to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're dedicated to digging up the real stories behind the world's biggest events. But the political maneuvering is only one part of this story. For millions of people, what happened in Egypt wasn't just geopolitics. They believe these events were a sign, pointing to a much older, deeper story, one written thousands of years ago. And so, the summit went on. But the ghost of the crisis lingered. Donald Trump, ever the showman, declared it a beautiful new day and signed a declaration of intent with the leaders of Egypt, Turkey, and Qatar. Leaders smiled for the cameras and talked about a new era of peace. But the empty chair, where Benjamin Netanyahu should have been sitting, spoke louder than any speech. It was a glaring symbol of Israel's isolation at the very moment it was supposed to be integrated. A peace deal designed to bring Israel closer to its neighbors was being signed without an Israeli pen in the room. The summit was saved from total collapse, but its central purpose was gone. The fallout was immediate. Pundits everywhere endlessly debated what Netanyahu's absence really meant. In Israel, opposition leaders slammed him, accusing him of putting his political survival ahead of a historic chance for peace. The event that was supposed to show a united front ended up highlighting just how deep the divisions in the region still were. Netanyahu had survived, his government was safe for now, but the image of that empty chair would stick, a powerful symbol of a peace process where the main character was forced to watch from the sidelines. This is where the story takes a turn, from the corridors of power into the pages of ancient prophecy. For many observers, especially those who see world events through a biblical lens, this wasn't just a coincidence. A peace deal for Israel that happens without Israel, the sudden hostility from Turkey, the alignment of certain nations, it all felt like a chilling echo of a 2,600-year-old prophecy. In the book of Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39, the prophet describes a future war. It predicts that a massive coalition of nations, led by a figure called Gog of the land of Magog, will one day invade Israel. For centuries, scholars have tried to match these ancient names to modern nations. Rosh is often identified as Russia. Persia is modern-day Iran, and a key member of this invading force is a nation called Togarmah. Many scholars believe Togarmah points to modern-day Turkey. The prophecy describes these nations, a northern alliance of Russia, Iran, and Turkey, joining forces to attack Israel. For years, that seemed unlikely. But today, we see them aligning more and more. Now, look at the summit again. The main force that pushed Netanyahu out was the aggressive ultimatum from Turkey's President Erdogan. It was a profoundly hostile act, showing Turkey positioning itself as a primary antagonist to Israel. This fits perfectly with the prophetic role of Togarmah. What's more, Ezekiel's prophecy says this invasion will happen when Israel is dwelling securely, living in a time of apparent peace. A peace plan hailed as bringing stability to the Middle East could be seen as setting the stage for exactly this kind of false security. From this perspective, the empty chair wasn't just a political symbol, it was a prophetic one. It symbolized a world creating a peace that marginalizes Israel, a peace that a northern alliance could one day try to shatter. In the New Testament, Jesus warned in Matthew 24 that the time before his return would be marked not just by wars, but by powerful deception. Is it possible that a plan celebrated for bringing eternal peace could be part of that delusion? A peace that looks and feels real, but is actually a setup for the prophesied war of Ezekiel 38? So what's the real reason Benjamin Netanyahu vanished from the peace summit? The simple answer is a brutal political trap. He was caught between Erdogan's external ultimatum and the internal threat from his own coalition partners. He was forced into a strategic retreat, using a religious holiday as the convenient cover. It was a masterclass in political survival, a desperate move in an impossible situation. But when you zoom out, another, deeper picture comes into view. One where modern politics seems to intersect with ancient prophecy, where the hostility of a Turkish leader, the alignment of nations, and a grand peace plan that leaves Israel strangely on the outside all seem to line up with a script written millennia ago. It makes you ask a bigger question. Was Netanyahu's absence just a messy footnote in modern diplomacy? Or was it something more, a sign that the world's path to a man-made peace might be leading toward a divinely ordained war? Let me know what you believe in the comments below.
This book is your beginner's guide to understanding Scripture. Find peace, build relationships, and discover purpose in today's world. Ready to decode the Bible? Find Bible Decoded available on Amazon now.
If this content blesses you and you'd like to support our mission, you can buy me a coffee or give a super thanks. Every contribution helps us create more content to inspire and uplift others. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on my future videos.